So it is great pleasure to introduce Thomas Werner, who will moderate an esteemed panel of photo professionals discussing how to get your professional or your personal work to the gallery, museum, and editorials. Thomas is the author of the books Business of Fine Art from Routledge and The Fashion Image for Bloomberg's Publishing. With an upcoming book co-author with Microsoft Bing and AI team leader Derek Colnell out in early 2026. He is an editor-at-large for IRK Magazine, a Paris-based print and web publication, and past photography program director at Parsons Schools of Design in New York. Thomas is the former owner of Thomas Werner Gallery in Manhattan's Chelsea Art District and a former national board member for the American Society of Media Photographers, as well as a former contributor to Adobe's Lightroom Academy and photography consultant for Coach, among others. As an exhibiting artist, Thomas was represented by galleries in New York and Los Angeles, and his work reviewed in the New Yorker magazine. Werner led a team developing a media and literacy website for the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, UNESCO, and was a recurring instructor for the United Nations Education First Summer School. From 2005 to 2019, he worked with the United Department of State on cultural project in Russia, partnering with 32 cultural, educational, and governmental organizations. A warm welcome to Thomas Werner, our moderator for tonight's panel discussion.
Hi all. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your taking the time. Definitely appreciate our panelists being here today. They flew in this morning and yesterday and didn't have to make time to provide us with the information they're going to today. I'd like to thank Center, a really wonderful organization building a community of photographers. Where else can you go and have this kind of community, this kind of conversation, share these insights, and learn the things you're going to learn this weekend? So here's to the work that Center does and everybody who does it. I'd like to introduce our panelists today, starting with Brian Clamp on my right. Established in 2000, Clamp Gallery in New York represents a wide range of emerging and mid-career artists of all media with a specialization in photography. Owner Brian Paul Clamp has over 30 years of experience in the field. He holds a master's degree in critical studies and modern art from Columbia University and is the author of over 40 articles and publications on American art to date. Our next panelist is, I feel like we're on What's My Line or something. Our next panelist is Crista Dix. Crista is the executive director of the Griffin Museum of Photography, where she brings a strong curatorial vision and a deep commitment to elevating photographic artists with over 2 decades of experience in the arts, first as a gallerist and now as a museum director. She has, over the past 4 years as director, led the Griffin in producing more than 20 exhibitions featuring the work of 2,000 artists annually. That's extraordinary. And expanded the museum's national and international presence. Griffin continues to thrive as a platform for the exploration, education, and celebration of photography. And finally, Kate. Kate Bubacz. Did I get it right? Bubacz. Yes. And I asked. Kate currently serves as the head of visuals at Rest of World, a media not-for-profit dedicated to illuminating how technology shapes lives globally, with previous leadership roles at the Wall Street Journal, BuzzFeed News, ABC News. Kate has established herself as a visual editor whose creative direction consistently earns industry recognition. And I just want to say, I'm sure that you all understand how difficult it is to build careers like all of our panelists have had, right? It's not an easy business. It's one that's changing rapidly, but one that's we've all been kind of blessed to be part of for quite a while. I mean, it's really an absolute gift. So today's going to be more of a conversation, hopefully less of me, more of these guys. And we're just going to talk about the things that they're all looking for when they see a personal project. They want to take it to a gallery or a museum or into editorial. And please, we have 2 mics for you all to share, if you would. So let's start with what, in terms of a body of work or a photographer, because I don't think people often talk about the photographers themselves, what differentiates somebody from someone else? Because it isn't just the work, it's sometimes the way the person presents as well. Anyone?
You want to start that?
Go for it.
I'm happy to.
I mean, in terms of bodies of work, first and foremost, it's got to be something fresh and unique that I haven't previously seen before. If it's a landscape photographer, it's got to be an approach to landscape that, is something unexpected, or maybe something, a personal take on it, that will catch my attention and make it of more interest. In terms of, the photographer themselves, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to, that everybody's got different personalities. But I guess first and foremost for me is someone who understands their own work, can talk about their own work, and understands their work in the context of, work being created today, but also historically.
So for me, oh, geez. I really love artists who are passionate, who are driven, but I also love artists that are really professional and understand who they are, where they sit, how their work fits into a broader photographic vision, and also really can speak to their work in a very clear, coherent way. I know when somebody is really invested in the work when they don't have to read their artist statement for me first, and that they can talk to me directly and remember that it's just a conversation. I agree about the nerves. That's always something. I am nervous now, so if I am nervous, I'm sure you are nervous as well. But having that portfolio together, having a conversation with me, and then what I look for is something that makes me stop breathing. It's something that I haven't seen before. It's something that I haven't thought of. It's a new way of looking at a topic that really kind of jerks me into position and is like, oh, this is a great thing. But I don't play poker for a reason. I can't hold it back, but I do try. So once I see something I really like, I will ask a lot of questions. So that's usually what I am looking for.
I agree with both of you. In the editorial world, my mandate's a little bit different. So I'm also looking for photographers who can interact with people and can interact with the publication that I'm working for and be a representative of that publication when they're going out in the field on my behalf. So I want someone who can speak about their work but also understands the constraints of a story or the constraints of a situation and can work within those constraints as well. Consistency becomes a big part of my thing as well. Like, your work is very creative, but can you replicate it? If I send you out on an assignment and I want it to look a certain way, are you able to reproduce this idea or this thought or this approach?
And I have two thoughts. One is Lisa Sutcliffe said, she's a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York right now, photography. She said, I like work that doesn't answer all the questions.
Yeah.
And you'd agree with that? And how would you describe that for the photographers who are listening?
Okay, so for me, if I'm disturbed by an image, if I am questioning that image, I will keep going back to it. If you give me all the answers, there is absolutely no reason for me to look at that image one more time. There's no reason for me to question what it is that you're talking about or what you're trying to say, because you've given me everything that I need, and I'll be like, okay, great, thanks. But that, to me, means that you've missed an opportunity to really push me a little bit further.
Yeah, and I'm looking for something that makes me come back to it over time, continue to think about it, but then something that's also in conversation with other work that I already know. Oftentimes, I talk about artwork with artists, in terms of other artists, and I know some artists, don't always love that, but it's my way of, discussing work. And yeah, I think that's interesting and exciting. Yeah.
I think you need to have that room for interpretation, because without it, it becomes way too literal. It becomes forgettable. So sometimes that's helpful, but if you can subvert something, that's where the magic really happens. Yeah.
And then does that become part of the conversation you're asking photographers to be able to have? Maybe not to explain the whole photo, but at least to understand, like you're saying, where it resides in a contemporary and historical context?
I don't mind if they can explain the whole photo, as long as I can also give my interpretation on it. If they're stuck in their interpretation of this photo, that's where it becomes a difficult conversation.
And I think that raises another important point is be open to a conversation. I think a lot of times, you sit down at a table and you have someone just talking at you for 20 minutes. But I think it's much more interesting to exchange ideas,
Yeah. And and veering off a little bit, but what about something that's beautiful? Is something that's beautiful helpful? Is beauty a tool? Is beauty a thing? Is it embraced? Is it helpful? Is it disregarded in a conceptual context?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of beauty at all. Yeah,
No?
yeah, no.
Some people are.
No, I know, but no, I think there's nothing wrong with beauty. You don't want cliche, of course, or something, something overdone. But yeah, who doesn't love beauty? Yeah.
And, I would say, you agree? Yeah.
I seek out beauty, but usually it's in really dark situations, which makes it a very complicated relationship with beauty, where you'll find yourself being like, that's a gorgeous picture, terrible situation, but gorgeous picture. And so, no.
Like James Knockaway, right? I mean, really horrific situations. Thank you. Really horrific situations, better, and but absolutely gorgeous imagery. And I think for somebody like James, that beauty draws you into those difficult situations, and you probably deal with that certainly in exhibitions, but at the journal and other places too, right? Yeah, how to engage people with that dialogue. And how would you define a good conversation? Like what do you expect the photographer to be able to say? Because that artist statement, how do I talk about my work, is something I hear all the time. Any thoughts?
I mean, again, I think making it personal is, is a great way and an honest way to approach it. Yeah, I'm interested in people, in addition to the art itself, and so yeah, hearing how you got to a project, what led up to that. I think that's all interesting and relevant.
After having a gallery for 15 years and then moving into a nonprofit space, one of the things that was really important to me as a gallerist was we have to be in a relationship. An artist and a curator, or an artist and a gallerist is like being in a marriage. So you have to have a clean line of communication, and it starts at that portfolio table, or it starts at that first interview where you introduce yourself in a way, you allow conversation to happen, and hopefully conversation will happen freely. When you sit down and say, I am perfect for you, which happens often enough, that's never a great way to start. You may be perfect for me, but I'd like to determine that on my own. As a museum director / curator, having the conversation is understanding the long game. We are planning 2028 right now. So I don't have a lot of immediacy available in any of my exhibitions unless lightning strikes. And that does happen. Sometimes you're in exactly the right place at the right time, and I can say, you know what, I got something going on next March. What are you doing? But that doesn't always happen. So always understand that when you sit down at the table and you're having these conversations, whether it's at a portfolio review like this, or you've made an appointment to go see a gallerist or a director, understand that you're really working on that long-term relationship and that networking aspect.
I think leaving room for feedback as well is really important. Like, whether someone likes your image or hates your image, they're responding to it in some way. And so they're not the end-all be-all arbiter of this piece of art or this body of work, but how they're reacting to it is important. And so taking that in and having the grace to listen, I think, is a really important part of the conversation.
Yeah, and being open to, getting 50 different opinions, in one weekend, and being able to take those opinions that are important to you and are going to move you forward. Yeah. So, you can't be too offended by one person.
You can't. It'll end you, really. So we've talked about the good things, but are there any red flags when a photographer comes in, or they bring in a portfolio, too many different kinds of work, prints that are dinged and bent? What are things that are red flags for you that might keep you from working with somebody, or suggest they fix something in their approach?
It kind of relates to what we were just talking about. I think someone who's just not open to listening, who doesn't want to take any sort of constructive criticism. As Crista was saying, we're going to be working, if we were to move forward, we would be working together closely. And so you want someone, who listens to your opinion, who, it seems like someone who would be someone on your team,
I don't know. For me, it's a lot about having the conversation. If you've overprogrammed yourself, you're going to get bound up. I know that I often try to use big words that I really should not be using, and so I just decided to stop all of that and be as simple as possible and as clear as possible. I mean, I started this as a photographer, not as an art historian or anything else. I really just love the craft, but I also don't always have the language for it. I just know what I love and what I don't and try to work my way through it. So I hope that the photographer sitting in front of me feels that same sort of way and understands their project enough so that they can have that conversation. If you start using big words and you get bound up in them and the words don't match the art or the work that's in front of me, I'll be like, okay, what's more honest? Is it the images? Were you lucky with those and the statement is really more important, or is the statement more important than the images? But that to me usually runs me a little ragged, and then of course bad prints. If you really, like, you could have the greatest idea in the world, but if your prints are awful, that it means that I've got to take a step back and think about what it is exactly that you're doing. That you have this great idea, but we've got to find you a better printer. I mean, the good news about Review Santa Fe is that you all have been selected because of your work, and I know that the quality of work that I always see here is phenomenal. So the technical aspects I never have to address here, but in other review processes I run into that problem, and then I'm like, well, did you really mean for that yellow to be in that corner? So for me, that's it.
I think having a messy portfolio in general is a red flag. If I'm looking at 8 wildly different images that look like they were taken by 8 different photographers, that always raises a flag of, are you just throwing things out there seeing what will stick, or where is your heart really in all of these pictures? And so that can be an opening part of a conversation, but I always get excited when there's a very clear vision or a very clear body of work to use as a starting point, even if it's just one project and they have others that they're working on or they want to go in a different direction. For me too, on the documentary side of things, I'm always looking at how are you interacting with people out in the world, especially people different than you. Does it feel like you are confident in this space? Does it feel like you're putting people at ease, or does it feel like you're skulking around taking pictures with a 200 millimeter lens? Because that will also raise questions.
Yeah. And we've talked about bodies of work, but how do you define a coherent portfolio or a coherent body of work? I think people have different ideas when they come into a review what that means.
Yeah. I think, a lot of gallerists like myself are thinking in terms of packaging. And so it's like, how do I take this body of work and package it into an exhibition to present to the public? And so as you're putting together a portfolio, and if you have galleries in mind, then that's an important thing to consider.
Mm-hmm.
The project itself has to be essentially complete, or tell us that it's not complete, that this is a great idea. I just had a portfolio review the other day where an artist had this amazing idea, but it wasn't well crafted yet. And so that's a tough conversation to have, waiting for it to gel or to try and have that conversation about making it a solid body of work. I don't mind seeing 2, 3, 4 ideas, because that helps me figure out what the artist is really sort of about in general. I mean, we all try to look at websites or information before we meet with you, but all of a sudden, if we've got all of these images in front of us that aren't necessarily cohesive or coherent, then that makes us wonder which one is the real body of work, or which is the one that you're really passionate about.
I feel like defining cohesive is a little tricky. Like, you know it when you see it. Because you can have wildly different ideas within one body of work, but there should be one defining theme or one defining container that's putting all of these things together, whether it's an approach with lighting, whether it's a place, whether it's a concept, but there should be one through thread that's knitting everything together.
But don't you, certainly in editorial, and I think everyone else, if you're going to have an exhibition, you hope the photographer can deliver the next story or the next exhibition or the next series of prints. It isn't, I think a lot of people think it's about one portfolio, and it's the ability, hopefully they have another show in them, right? Or they have another.
Yeah, 100%. So that's taking it maybe a step beyond a portfolio review. And if there's an artist that I'm considering for representation, then yes, I'm very interested in, the body of work that will be their first exhibition. But I'd like to know what, they will have coming down the pipeline, but also what they've done in the past and what has brought them to this point now. So.
And do you want to see a thread through that, like this exhibition and their next, or can it be wildly different?
I think it's okay.
I think it's growth is the big key, right? Is from one one to the next is to see growth, to see I've learned something from this body of work and now I'm applying it to this, or I had got this idea and it really kind of ricocheted off into this. Because as a gallerist, and I know Brian will say the same thing, we're investing in you as an artist. We don't want a one-hit wonder. We want somebody that we can work with for the long run. And so we invest in you, we invest in your projects, and we invest in the project that you haven't even made yet, so that when we talk to clients or to patrons, we're like, this is happening, and guess what? This is going to happen too.
Yeah, that's exactly. Okay.
I think that's exactly right. Like, I want to have some sense of when I put you on an assignment or when I commission a project from you, that it's going to look in line with your previous work, and maybe we're pushing the boundaries a little bit further or taking an idea in a new direction. But I've had a few photographers come in with a whole new approach, and that's always a scary moment, because I usually have other stakeholders that I've had a conversation with, and I'm like, I don't know what happened here.
And you're talking about when you assign something and then they come back with something wildly different than they showed you?
Sometimes it's great, and the real pros will bring in exactly what was assigned, plus here's a bonus round, here's a new form of lighting, or we had this opportunity and we took it. That gets me excited. If it's only the second where I'm like, I promised people things, like, that can be harder.
Well, I don't think a lot of people realize your job or your reputation depends on what people deliver and the quality of each exhibition, right? And you've mentioned creating a package, or the audience, your clients, or your bosses, and I think a lot of people think of magazines as just magazines as a clump, or photo museums as a clump, or galleries. How do your audiences, your client base, to help define the work that you show, right? Because I think audience is something we don't talk about very often, but it really defines a lot of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, of the 1,000 galleries in New York, each one has a different flavor and a slightly different clientele. And that's something that puts one photographer above another, is when I sit down with them and they've done their research and they're already familiar with the gallery, with the kind of work we show. If oftentimes if someone sits down and they may have a very impressive body of work, but it's extremely close to somebody I already represent, then it's kind of wasting both of our the time of both of us. So
Yeah.
So in a museum context, my concern is education and really looking at topics of interest, looking at ways that we use photography to further an idea or some type of narrative. To me, that is what I look for in trying to build exhibitions. I start each year with a single sort of theme and then branch off and make 3 to 5 exhibitions around that, and bring in artists that can speak to that topic in multiple ways. But I'm also a community gallery, so definitely not the MFA yet, but I'm going to try. So I do have, I do work with emerging artists and mid-career artists, and I want to give them as many opportunities as possible, which is where that 2,000 number comes in. We have 2 members exhibitions, and we have a public art exhibition, and we are trying to find, Winchester is a complicated location. We're not in a major metropolitan area, and you would think that Winchester is Siberia from Boston. So I'm spending a lot more time trying to get work online, because we have more people online than we do that come to visit the museum.
Wow.
We do have a satellite location that's a hallway in downtown Boston, and that sees 1,000 people a day.
Wow.
But when I say, hey, do you want to go work down at Lafayette? They're like, nope. And I'm like, why? And they said, because it's not the museum. So it's a matter of trying to find those locations that fit each of those artists.
Interesting.
In my thinking about audience, I'm thinking about how can you represent us as a brand, because not only do you need to look cohesive on our page, but you also are competing with the entire internet in terms of attention. So I'm looking at images that can be eye-catching or striking or educational when totally divorced from an article or divorced from a site, because they're going to be traveling in a totally different way. And so that changes the game in a different way, where I'm thinking about how will it work within our story, but also how will it work on social media platforms? How will it work if it's representing an event that we're holding? So it becomes a much more complex edit in that sense. You might have an amazing photograph that gets cut because it's not going to look when it's good when it's this big on your phone.
And or maybe it resides well within the story, but doesn't reside well on its own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Within that too, I'm also thinking about how can you be an ambassador for the organization that I'm working with, because your images are going to be traveling almost certainly divorced from our website. So I want something that looks like our visual brand. I don't want it to look like another publication's.
Okay, I'll step into it. I was going to go a different direction with social media. What's the importance of social and, the role it plays in your worlds? Just be honest.
I mean, I hate it, but I can't ignore it. So
Right. I think you just spoke for most
Yeah.
people in the room. Yeah.
it can be really useful. It can be a source of inspiration. It can be a really great source of connection. It certainly is an interesting way to put together stories where you have carousels and you're thinking about how do people interact with this really quickly as they're distracted. Like, how can you hold people's attention in a different way? That said, I don't encourage people to become influencers. That's not necessary.
But you need to be there as an organization or a gallery or a museum.
yeah, and it took me a while. It took my artists and it took my employees to convince me, how important social media really was. But it's amazing to see 6-figure sales come from an Instagram post, and it does happen. But one thing I will say is, as an artist, I really don't love being approached and given an Instagram handle. I feel like someone's Instagram page doesn't take the place of a proper website or a physical portfolio. So I think social media is an extremely important tool, and it's a great way to stay in touch with people who you have made a connection with, and it's a great way to make new connections as well. But it doesn't take the place of a lot of other important things.
Sure.
Yeah.
The one drawback to that is do not tag us without asking. We are using our Instagram and Facebook and all of our social media in order to introduce the world to the artists that we are working with. We do extensive interviews. We post those interviews on Instagram. I was blessed with a gift of an intern in 2021 who I have now hired, and we've been working together now for 5 years and completely rebranded all of our Instagram feed. When I started at the museum as the associate director, we had 300 people on our Instagram feed. We have 19,000 now.
Wow. And that is a gift.
Yeah, and it helps us support you as an artist. It helps us talk about the exhibitions that people will never come see. It gives us a connection to be able to talk about the education that we do, the stories that we tell, the events that we have on site in Winchester and online.
Is a photographer, an artist that you work with, or somebody, is it important to you, or is it helpful for you if they also repost your story, or repost the images, or repost the opening? Is that a collaboration that you would hope happens at this point? Yeah, please.
Yeah, we want you to be partners with us. So we will tag you and hope, or invite you to participate, and hope that you will push the word out as well. It's just that unsolicited tag that becomes problematic.
Yeah, but it has to be a team effort.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and the unsolicited tag thing, I understand where that's coming from. It's, artists wanting to catch your attention, but yeah, can be inappropriate and weird.
Well, somebody will think that you are, in fact, attached to that gallery.
I mean, I agree. Absolutely. Please don't tag me, but also please repost the things that are out there. Your audience is different than my audience, and the more eyes and attention that we can get, the better. And you never know what will pique someone's interest.
And you never know who's going to see it, or I have people who say, well, I'm not getting likes, but you might get a ton of views, and there's that random person out there who might see your work, your post, or your repost. It makes a difference sometimes, right? So as much as we hate it sometimes, I think it's essential. And I know there's pain moving across certain portions of the audience with this conversation. But I think it's important to acknowledge that, along with a solid portfolio and a website, you would say?
I agree with Brian that I would rather see a website than an Instagram. An Instagram to me is a sketchbook. It's like a place where I can see some of the events that you're involved with, or the ideas that you're working on. But I do want to see something that's like polished and professional.
Do you want something printed?
I like something printed, but I'm working almost always online, and so within that, a
Right.
website's a lot faster.
Any of you guys? Print portfolio, is it nice?
I mean, I've come to accept that, a lot of work I'm going to see is going to be on a screen, but I will always prefer a printed portfolio, and I want to see, the quality of a print, because that's ultimately what's going to make its way to the walls of my gallery.
Right?
I'm happy to talk about concepts online or on an iPad or however on a phone, but to me there's going to be nothing better than that print.
Yeah.
And what that represents on the wall. So,
Yeah, it all comes down to the image, right? And your interpretation, the print is part of your interpretation, don't you think?
yeah. So I do weekly portfolio reviews online.
Really?
But if I'm really, really interested in that portfolio, I ask them to send me a print so that I can judge the print quality and see if that's like step number 2 in making that next leap to, is this a person that I want to work with?
And it's hard to just go from digital to the walls, right? Or to the magazine or to wherever, right? You need to understand how people interpret their work, right? And I think that's important. Digital's easy. It's like emailing. It's easy. The problem is delete. Digital's easy because you can see it, but the screen is different. The size is different. It makes a big difference, I think, truly. So if you decide, I guess first, what is the pathway from my personal body of work to the walls of your gallery, the walls of your museum, into the editorial places you work with? I understand the qualities you might be looking for, but what's the pathway for me? What would be the steps maybe from an early project to what you each do?
I mean, this kind of aligns with what Crista was also talking about, but like portfolio review events for me can often be the place where we plant the seed for a relationship that's going to grow over time. So I think patience is of the utmost importance because it can take a while, and I may need to think about your work for a while, or start following you on social media, get on your email list and seeing what else you're doing before I'm ready to make a commitment, or before something opens up in my exhibition schedule to be able to do something, or before I'm doing the right group show that actually relates to you and your body of work. So I guess patience and perseverance.
You want to see that somebody's around and they're not just coming in once to show you their work, that they're continuing to make new work and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it starts with a conversation. I get a seed in my brain, and I have a 1 terabyte drive that I keep with me in my office. And so what ends up happening is, if I get this idea, if I see your work and I'm really engaged with it, but I have absolutely no idea what to do with it yet, I'm going to ask you for a couple of images, and I'm going to toss it into that terabyte drive and hold on to it and let it germinate. And then as soon as I have an idea, I will come back to you. But that could be years. I have an appetite that is way bigger than my ability to set a table and be able to eat. So I love looking at work. I love having these conversations. It always sparks something new, and I always start looking at things in a new way, which may actually lead me off into looking at an exhibition in a completely different light. So it's that first conversation, it's looking at the work, it's holding on, it's letting me get back to you. I know that's super hard, and the biggest issue that I hear from many photographers is that I never get back to them, or that you go to these review events and you don't hear from us. You send your thank you note and you don't hear from us for months, and it's not intentional. We're not singling you out. We literally are busy. Brian has a gallery to run. I have a building to run and curatorial to do. So my brain is split in half between spreadsheets and the creative, which is, trust me, way more fun for me. And it's a lot smaller part of my job. But have patience. Don't send us an email and then 24 hours later send us another email saying, hey, I'm just putting this at the top of your list. That doesn't work either. But then, let us think about this. Let us work on it. Let us get back to you. But also send us reminders every once in a while. I tell artists to connect with me like once a quarter. If you've got new work, send me a little postcard that says, hey, there's new work on my website. I love getting those postcards. And if you've ever seen a Zoom in my office, you've seen the stacks of cards and things behind me that I keep. I keep all of them because I love looking at them. When I need a mental break, I go through those. So it is, perseverance. It's showing up. It's networking with others. It's really having the ability to know that what you're doing and what you're working on is important, and that we will see that and get back to you.
I also have a cataloging system where I will throw in people's portfolios. And so to echo what Crista is saying, please do send me a note, and please do send me reminders every quarter or every 6 months. I will probably not respond, but I will probably look at it. And the review is almost always the start of a conversation. I've had people that I've connected with then 5, 6, 7 years later, I'm like, I finally got the project that will fit your style of work, or we finally are looking for a photographer in this specific place. That said too, there's also, it's a small community, and so on occasion people will be like, I'm looking for a photographer in this place. Do you know anybody? And so it might not be me, reaching out to you, but I might be passing your name along as an idea or as a referral for someone else down the line. So think of it very much as an ecosystem as well.
And I think if you have a good review with someone, for me in particular, it's helpful if you then join the the network of my gallery. You know, if you begin following the gallery, if you're commenting or interacting with posts on social media, if you're in the New York area and you actually come and see exhibitions and you know, come to gallery openings and get to know me a little better personally and the people you know, who work in my gallery, then that's all helpful too, because when opportunities do arise, the people who come to your mind first are the people, you know, that you do have a little more personal interaction with.
Yeah, and you know, you get a sense of the person. You know, I used to say you want to make sure people aren't crazy. When I was a photographer and I'd go show my portfolio at a magazine and an editor would come out, I always figured they wanted to make sure that I wasn't completely bonkers. You know, and it's true, right? It's you just need to know. I think patience is a big thing too. You need to put yourself in the room that these folks are in, right? So if for you 1 month is 30 days, 6 months, oh my God, that's 180 days. 180 days I haven't heard back, but for you that's 5 exhibitions or 3 exhibitions or 3.
80 days is like 5 minutes.
Right.
We think at least 6 to 8 weeks ahead, right? Because
Right.
once an exhibition opens, we're working on the next exhibition. So
Sure. And sometimes you're working on the next one to get it up, but you're also thinking maybe a year or 2 ahead, right? I think there's that dual timeline that people don't understand in all these industries. And they are businesses. It's a beautiful business, but they are businesses. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's hard for people. So, yeah, my advice is always to imagine what it's like in the room that you're sending your work to, and you're having conversations, you're talking with your staff, you're waiting for the right article, and it doesn't mean people don't like you, which is how it feels. I mean, it really does, right? Oh my God, they must hate me, they haven't called me, nobody's showing my work, I'm awful, I'm gonna quit. I mean, I don't know, very long story short, I've been going to New York for like 3 years and showing work that was just like in the magazines, and finally I put in all my own work and said, if this doesn't work, I'm quitting. I'm leaving the business. I can't take it anymore. And then Carla Poppenfuss, who was a big editor in the city for a long time, said, finally, how wonderfully unself-conscious. You've been trying to please me for 3 years. Now I know who you are. And she walked me back in to meet the other editors. I almost started to cry. And I was just, and they kind of wanted to pat me on the head, I think, and send me on my way. And she took me to the Condé Nast Cafe, and I thought I'd made it, you know. But those things matter. But she was right. You know, we try so hard to please and imitate, I think, or do the things they see in your gallery or your museum, and I don't think you can emphasize enough being yourself, right? It's hard. It's hard. So if you give somebody an exhibition or a job to shoot for you, what do you expect from them? What's the process? Like, Brian, oh my gosh, I got an exhibition. What's the timeline, and what do you expect from people?
You know, it's pretty straightforward, but just delivering what's asked of you. You know, I need JPEGs from the entire body of work at this size, you know, by this date. I need your CV. I need your artist statement. You know, it's all pretty straightforward, but yeah, but turn it around quickly, and yeah, do what's asked of you. I mean, it's pretty simple.
So when you're asked, do you want to see it, but how far in advance of an exhibition do you want some of that stuff? Like if you are considering someone to exhibit, or if you decide to exhibit, do I need to send you JPEGs 2 months in advance or a week in advance, or what kind of timeline do you work on?
It can really vary, because sometimes I'll decide to start working with artists with no exhibition on the calendar yet. So we may just be getting things up on the website, you know, to begin sharing, you know, with our clientele. Other times, yeah, we'll sign an artist, and then their first exhibition will be, you know, 3 to 6 months, you know, from that date. And so then you really need things quickly, almost immediately.
So you need them that far in advance to get clients interested, or to get them out onto your website, or to get it out to press or whatever else?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. I think people misinterpret that sometimes. You know, think the exhibition is the month of, and a few weeks before is okay. When do you wait? How long in advance do you need prints? I'm sorry. I think it's important because you don't want those to arrive the day before either.
Right, but it can vary. The framed prints for the exhibition.
Yeah.
We generally want fairly close to the installation date because we're in New York and we don't have a ton of room for storage.
Right.
Yeah, maybe if the work is already prepared, then maybe we'll have a few pieces sent much earlier to put up in the viewing room at the gallery and to begin sharing with people. Yeah. So and also it depends on what the work is like. If it's modestly sized work, then maybe we do have the room for it, and if it's already ready, then the sooner the better. But but if it's massive framed prints, yeah, it'll probably be closer to the actual installation date.
Okay.
Well, for us, my dream, normally I've got everything laid out or designed, my exhibition calendar's done a year in advance. So I've already reached out to you, and we've already talked about the work that I'd like for you to show. Then the reality sets in of life happening to both of us, and it ends up being about 6 months before we get started, before the exhibition. And I'm writing and saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so late on this, but let's start talking about your show and try to collaborate on which images are going to make the most impact. So I want you to participate in this. I'm not just going to ask you for a group of images that I really love. I'm going to ask for your input, like, okay, here's my non-negotiables. These are the ones that I really, really, really want, and what ones do you think help fill in the narrative or what the idea is. So the two of us work together for a couple of months until we find what we need to find for the exhibition, and then I have almost no storage space. We are not a collecting institution, and Arthur did not think about collecting anything, let alone having frames anywhere in the building. So we arrange shipping for you to arrive usually the week or two at the most before the exhibition installation, and especially if you have large crates. And I don't know how many of you have been to Winchester when we've gotten these massive crates, and we've made them decorative in the building because we have nowhere else to put them. And especially in the winter when it's snowing outside or inclement, I can't just leave the crates outside. So anyway, that's from beginning to end. We want that work in about 2 weeks. The exhibition itself goes online probably 90 days ahead. So once we have one exhibition up online, we want to make sure that our upcoming exhibitions are all listed. But I'm hoping to get better on that too and give you a couple months at a time. We've been working extraordinarily hard on next year's exhibitions because thematically it works for us to talk about all of it all at once. So we are going to probably load up more than we normally would. So the online stuff comes way before the actual physical work. And if we want the work bad enough, we'll help you frame it. We have exhibition frames in the museum. Now, that's not pretty, right? They're the standard black exhibition frames, and if that's okay with you, great. I mean, the goal is to get the work on the walls, but if you have a very specific way of framing, let's talk about that and figure out what that takes to make that happen.
Please don't send me frames. I also have no storage. I have a bit of a double standard because I'm usually asking people to turn things around relatively quickly, and then you won't hear from me for a week or two while I'm wrangling writers and editors on their side of the project. And so usually I'll want to see the images as soon as you take them, just to get a sense of like, how did this go? Do we need to revise this? Do we need to revisit? Did this concept come together? And then once I have the word side of things, then it's a marriage between two different artists. So the writer will have an opinion absolutely about how this should look. I'll have an opinion, and it's coming somewhere in the middle. I try to not go back to photographers to ask for more images if they've already sent their edit. On occasion, I will be like, do you have more of this room? Do you have more of this person? We need a different angle? But I try to do that within the first 48 hours of you filing initially, and not 6 weeks later when both of us have moved on to other things.
And if it's news, you could need those images that day, like immediately, literally. People will be uploading from their car or Starbucks or No, truly.
And I'm downloading in the bar.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
I think you got the better of this. Yeah. No, but true, right? You might be downloading late at night.
Yeah, that can happen. Luckily, most news you can predict, but on occasion that will be the case. And then you're doing really quick turnarounds. And in all of these cases, I'm expecting you to have caption info or at least some basic information about what am I looking at, because you're on the ground, you have a sense of this, but I'm coming into this totally cold. So who is this person? Where is this place?
Right. What's the location? What's the building?
Yeah.
What's the situation? So if you're doing documentary, you're doing news, you're doing that kind of stuff, that's important. And if you're doing long-term, maybe a documentary narrative or portraits, as you said, that turnaround isn't 6 weeks.
No, then
I
it
mean-
can be like a few days.
Right.
I'd say on average right now I'm working within about a 2 to 3 week span. So I'll assign you, you'll go out a few days later, I'll get the images a few days after that, and then we'll publish after that. It makes it a little bit less brutal, but I also try to, in the initial ask, if I know I'm going to need these images tonight or tomorrow morning, I'm clear about that, just so people can plan accordingly.
Yeah. And do you expect people, I would assume, if you need something today and somebody delivers, makes you a little more likely to hire them to do the longer term story if their work is appropriate, or if they deliver, they don't deliver?
If you don't deliver your images, we're never working together.
There you go. No, I think that's
that's like that's table
Yeah.
stakes. You have to deliver the images by the time, or you have to have a really good reason. I will give people my cell phone number if something comes up, or if you get there. I had a photographer this week who called at 10 o'clock at night. He's like, "I'm so sorry, but like the event didn't happen."
Oh.
It got canceled last
can you
minute.
do?
And so with it, but like telling me that instead of waiting 2 days and then me tracking you down is much appreciated.
I have a friend at Bloomberg who, if it starts to get late, she sends a hissing black cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you feel guilty and a little horrified.
Yeah.
No, it's different. And if you do, and I'm just to take a minute, if you do a documentary narrative, sometimes it's a couple weeks, but in some of the other places you worked, it isn't that long a turnaround, is it?
No, usually then it's a lot quicker, where it's a few days or a few hours in some cases.
Right.
It really depends on the event.
Because the reason I'm asking is I've talked to people who say, but it takes me like 4 days to retouch. And thank you, please.
Please don't retouch your images in that case.
No,
please
please.
just send them as they are. A lot of times too, for ethical reasons, we don't want any retouching that's being done besides color correction. And most photo editors can handle a pretty basic like color correction. And so if we need something really quickly, like send it to me directly from your camera, I can color balance it and we can put it on the website. If you're retouching things to that detail level, we're probably also working it together in a different capacity. The expectation is that how you're shooting it is how I'm getting it.
Yeah. Which I think, for particularly, with all due respect, younger photographers, there's an assumption that's not the case, and it just is, right?
Yeah, I think that's also where you kind of distinguish the amateurs from the pros. If I'm getting your files and they're very clean, they're already color corrected, they already have captions, you already have everything set, you know this is someone who's done this many, many times versus someone who's scrambling. The images are coming in, they're not renamed, they don't have any information. Please don't send me the captions as a separate Word doc file. That's not helpful. Then I'm trying to align your images and your filing convention with a separate document, have everything in one file.
Yeah, and all I'll say from my experience is the first time you have to do that for somebody, it's horrifying, right? Because you know they're waiting and you're trying to get it right, and the process is different because every organization has a little different process, and it makes you want to cry.
That said, yeah, it absolutely does. But
It
also
does.
feel free to ask at the beginning, like, what are you expecting from me? What size files do you need? What do you want in the captions? How do you want me to send them? Because people also have different ways of delivering files, whether it's like a WeTransfer or whether it's like an actual drive being sent in. But feel free to ask those questions. People, I do this all the time, so I forget that your way of filing is not my way of filing, but I am happy to give that direction.
And some orgs use Fetch, some orgs use very specific programs for uploading, and you need to know that as well, correct? Yeah, thanks. I think they aren't the kind of things we talk about often, but it's the nuts and bolts, right, that make a difference in a career. So just on a more personal note, for each of you, what's the biggest challenge you've had in your career? Yeah. I just said I almost cried. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what's it could be personal. It can be business wise because I know the gallery world does this.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what I was going to say is having the patience to play the long game, because there are going to be peaks and valleys, and we're kind of in a valley right now. And so, it's just, being confident enough in myself to be sure that, we'll get through it and we'll see the other side of it. So that's a challenge, but something I think I'm better at than I was when I was younger. So
it's fair.
Oh, so many challenges. I think my biggest challenge is time management. I really feel like what I want to do and what I have to do are two completely different things. If I could spend all my time talking with artists, talking about work, talking about exhibitions, dreaming up new exhibitions to have in some fantasy facility, like, if I had a fantasy museum land, there would be so many exhibitions happening all the time on so many different levels, and I can't get there. So for me, I have to be better at, and it's been my challenge forever as a gallerist and as a museum director, is learning how to make time for myself, make time for my artists, and make time for my business.
Time management is a big one. I'd say for me, it's been burnout, because you're in a constant scrum of news. You're working almost always with events well beyond your control. They are not on your timetable. They don't care that you just got a new puppy or that you're at a wedding or that you're really tired. You still have to show up for your photographers who are in the field, for your writers, for your audience. And so that can really grind on someone for over a long period of time. And then the industry itself has its own challenges in terms of staying relevant, making sure that you're reaching audiences. Right now, we're in an era of disinformation, and so making sure that people are still trusting the things that you're putting out, and the quality of work that you're putting out is still earning people's trust. That also takes a toll on you.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance the other way too. It's a great point. Being human with photographers, you want to understand what they're going through, but also you need to have those files. And if I just broke up, or if I just had just it doesn't matter, right?
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Right? If you need if the exhibition opens tomorrow, you need the prints, right? I mean, sometimes it's non-negotiable, and that seems really cold, but I think it's really important to say, because sometimes it's not that you're not human. It's not that you'll do everything to work with somebody, but
having flexibility and being open to change. I mean, the gallery business, the commercial photography business. I mean, so much changes so quickly at this point. So you kind of have to roll with the punches and realize that maybe one way that you did something 10 years ago isn't going to be the way that's going to work today.
We had, at the launch of the Fashion Image, Mario Sorrenti was on stage, and we did a conversation like this. And one of the things he said, not on stage, but in his studio before, was just that 15 years ago, he could go and do this amazing editorial and take his time, and there was a budget, and it was amazing, and he could create. And now he had to have a team that did social, and he had to have a team that did video, and he has to a shorter timeline and a smaller budget. And it was more rare that he got to work with a designer or somebody who would allow him to go to Italy or somewhere. And he's legendary. I mean, he's earned it. But even for him, he said the business had become so demanding because you have to deliver so many things. It's hard, I think. So what, 2 more questions, that'll be it. What one personality trait do you think has gotten you through this far? What's one thing?
The ability to not sleep.
Or function on very little.
And to just be genuinely interested in people.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's a lot about, art is about that, and so I think that helps. Yeah.
That's huge.
I think curiosity is important. I also think a level being organized, so that way when things come up last minute or you have to pivot last minute, you have things in your back pocket, or you have people on standby and you can find them again and contact them again. That's been a big thing.
People you can count on.
Yeah, people you can count on, or people also who can approach things in a totally different way. Every now and again, you get this great project and you're told that you have time and there's a bit of a budget and you can do something interesting with it. You don't want to be standing there going, oh my goodness, what do I do now?
And maybe also not allowing your feelings to get too hurt. You know, it's like everybody's got their own needs and their own responsibilities, and things change. And yeah, it's like, don't take things too personally.
That's all great advice. And I would say it's easy to take rejection personally, and there's a lot of it in our world. And I can't say more about having a team of people that you can count on. When you find a group of people, or a handful of people, one or two people, your intern, you can count on, you hold them dearly because they are priceless, right? They're too few and far between. And any last words you'd offer to the photographers for career or review or anything else that's coming up? And I'm going to take a picture of the crowd, so I'm not ignoring you, but we need to document this or no one will believe it happened.
Well, I would just say enjoy photo camp. This is a weekend to really enjoy each other, to find new ways of networking. I love coming to events like this because it's exactly what it is for me. This is my working vacation, and I take every minute of it very seriously and make sure to enjoy every minute. So I'm hoping that you find each other, you have conversations with us as reviewers, that you walk away from this experience with something new. It may be frustrating, and I really feel for you when you have those back-to-back reviews, because you put your heart out on a sleeve for 20 minutes, and then you got 5 minutes to recover before you have to go do it all over again. And you know, it's going to be a lot, and it's exhausting. But go ahead and hold off when you get done. Take a few minutes, breathe a little bit, go for a walk in the woods, do whatever you need to do, and then go back and revisit those notes, and then you'll get something out of it. And then, you know, you never know what's going to happen. You never know when we talk to each other or when you talk to each other and say, hey, you know, I heard about this. And so, you know, play the long game and just really enjoy this experience.
Yeah, I was going to say, have fun, meet new people, and be sure to look at other people's art. You know, a lot of times you're nervous and so focused on yourself, but this is a great opportunity to see a lot of wonderful photography by other people as well.
Within all of that too, don't take it too seriously. If someone doesn't like your work, the next person might love it, and so don't be too hard on yourself either throughout the weekend.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time for question and answer. I'm going to ask that the questions be tight and concise. We have a microphone in the middle. No stories. No long soliloquies. I will cut them off because we only have a little bit of time, and everybody need to get to portfolio walk, and people
we
are
have
already
to
going.
Stop at 4:20, right?
Yep,
so
we
these
are
guys
have a
can
hard
get
out
on,
in 13 minutes. So anyone have a question, and if you want to direct it to one up front, if you want to direct it to one reviewer, that's great, or to the panel.
Thomas, I noticed that you very consciously moderated in a very personal direction. And what I hear from photographers a lot is, I don't want to talk about myself, I want to talk about the work. Could you all talk a little bit more about that personal connection and the reality of like connecting yourself with the work you're doing and these relationships?
I think I would say is there's a difference between speaking for 20 minutes about yourself and your life and what you do, and talking about the connection to your work or what it means to you or what it grew from, without that becoming the whole conversation. So I would also say, and then you've heard the word authenticity and honesty. I like to talk to people that I believe are honest and being open about their work and what they're doing. So for me, it would be you being authentic about your work. I don't need to know that you started when you were 5, but I would like to know how that work connects to you, maybe perhaps today or at another point in your life, if that's where it's growing out of, right? Because at some point, Either we're conceptualists and I want to make this and I make it, or I find my concept by making, and failing and struggling, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's not that, it's this. And then I make that, right? So maybe I want to know that journey, or maybe I want to know why that resonates to you. So that's my take on it, but these guys might have a little different feeling.
So I really love the conversation. If you're a 20-minute fire hose at me and then you give me 2 minutes to say finally, so what questions can I answer for you? And you have none because you've just told me everything about you. You've told me everything I need to know about our relationship. It is a back and forth, you know. I don't want to know that you found a brownie from your grandparents' attic at 5 and that was the love of it. I want to understand who you are now, where this passion comes from, and where you're going with it. What's happening next? But I think that can all happen in the context of the conversation with your work as well as your personal life. I mean, if you talk to me, I've got 2 million lives. So we could be sitting there all night and I'd have to bring out the vodka, and then that would, just be the world's longest conversation. So I think keeping it relevant to our conversation about your work is fine.
I want to see that you're driven and why you're doing it. There's got to be a love for this, because it's not that easy. I mean, it's one thing to love it and take the pictures. It's another thing to turn it into a career and work with either of these three folks. That takes a lot of work. And you have to want to do both. Anyone else? We didn't do that well. Anyone else? No?
There's what, somebody over here.
Great.
Okay. When you bring a print portfolio, what size images do you prefer?
It's nice if the prints are approaching the size of what you envision for the wall, but oftentimes that's not practical. So, just something that can give me an idea of the quality of your printing, what they actually look like. And, I looked at a lot of prints over a long period of time, and I can, if I need to envision them at another scale, that's certainly possible. So
For me, what's important is the ability for us to have a fluid conversation without screwing around with the prints. If the prints are too big for the table, then it all of a sudden becomes more about the prints on the table than it does about our conversation. I'm happy to take smaller prints because then I, again, can ask you for what this looks like at scale, or if I'm really interested to see how it's going to look on a wall and you've got a 40 by 60 print, you can send me a 40 by 60 print in a tube and I can look at it later. But, we look at enough work that we can kind of envision where it's at what size. So I would say smaller and more efficient is better for situations like this.
Also, I think some of the best advice I heard was as big as they can, as close as they can be to your size, but not so big that they hurt the intern's back. Yeah, right? So maybe do smaller prints, and then like it was suggested, bring one 40 by 60 in a tube, even with you. So here's the size, and here's one at scale. Oh, okay, great. Anyone else? Oh, one.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this. When you're planning ahead, thinking of future exhibits and so forth, how much of that is predetermined that you just see from your own point of view, or how much of that planning depends on the new work that is flowing in?
I mean, for me, it's very dependent on what's flowing in. It's like I'm representing a lot of artists, and some of them are producing work very quickly. Some are much more slow, and so it depends, when things are actually ready. But then I like, I like having a gallery in the sense that I have a lot more flexibility than a museum may have. And so if I see something that I really like, I can tend to be able to move relatively quickly on it. Yeah, so, and sometimes I'll have my exhibition schedule for the next year set, but then, you know, things will end up shifting around if I see something really exciting or see. Yeah, and that happens too, and often for very good reasons, you know, things will fall through. So.
So before we wrap up, first I want to say thanks to our panelists before you leave.
Thomas, I have the final question, which I'm sure all of you have wondered about, but were afraid to ask. So I'm going to ask it. How important is it, as a photographer, to wear black?
I did notice that.
I'm serious. Like, Brian?
It's my uniform. I don't have to think about it. Yeah.
Crista?
Curatorial black is always in style.
Kate?
I was going to say close to mandatory.
So a big thank you to Thomas, Brian, Crista, and Kate for all the insights that they have given us this afternoon as we kick off 24th Review Santa Fe. So thanks to all of the center volunteers, the staff, the donors, the alumni, everyone who has gathered here to kick off this wonderful weekend event.